I'm not celibate. However, I only have sex for money, LOL. Not interested in fucking men for free anymore. Because working with raunchy men makes me hate them in the idea of intimacy, LOL. A year in, meaning celibacy, because men ain't shit. Show me someone who deserves it. I am celibate for 2 years, started dancing almost a year ago. I just don't think anyone deserves the cooch or my mental stability. And the I'm not fucking for free anymore, I was definitely on that vibe for a fucking while when I was stripping.
Yeah.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I am one of your hosts, Autumn. I am very nervous to talk about my strip club experiences on the internet, and I work in entertainment.
And I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I have body glitter on, so I'm giving siren, and I work in social media and marketing.
If you guys are new here, what we do on So Wet, So Dry is we explore duality through deep diving topics about sex, relationships, identity, all where internet trends and reality collide. We did not post polls for this episode, but we literally post polls for every single other episode. So if you guys want to be a part of the community and have your voice heard, please follow us on Instagram. It's the only place we post the polls. At So Wet, So Dry, the O's are zeros, and we also post it on our personal accounts as well. But yeah, so please follow, and whatever you guys are doing right now, stop, subscribe, support, comment, interact with your girls, okay? We always interact back, so we will continue to do that. And yeah, we'd love just like any feedback. We'd love to hear from y'all, so let us know.
Yes, ma'am. And today we are talking about the stripper/sex work to celibacy pipeline. There is not a ton of research that we were able to find for this episode. You guys know we usually bring in a lot of research. So this episode is very experience heavy, drawing from our own experiences and also our community as well. So we have a lot of stories. But before we get into all of that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. I don't really have that much that I'm like wet about right now besides just recording. I'm very excited to record, and also like the weather's getting nicer, so I feel lighter and happier in general. I don't want to be working like inside my office. I want to be like outside in the streets.
I know. You want to be reading in the sun.
Yes, I want to be tanning. I want to be at like a patio bar, like all of those things. But, you know, we're trapped 9 to 5, so it is what it is.
Yeah. I would say I'm definitely wet how both of us look right now. I feel like we're really giving, especially for this episode. Like, this is not going to be like something super easy for us to talk about. So, you know, you got to doll yourself up to fucking prepare for that.
Yes.
Shit. But I would say I'm wet. If y'all have listened before, you know that I love a good YouTube fixation. It's ranged from, you know, celebrity trauma, child stars specifically. Right now, it's Alabama Rush, okay?
Ew.
Bitch, it's not because I'm like, I love them. It's because I'm like, this is like crazy that like this is like actually a reality that people live in.
Yeah.
And it's like I've just gone so far down, and it's like I'm watching everything from like girls that are in it, like POV, like they're like for real about it, to like other creators like, you know, talking about how fucked it is, like the horrible rules, the racism, yada yada. So I've been all around the map. I don't know why that's my current fixation. I'm not even really wet about it, but like it is like, you know, it's entertaining. Like these bitches are crazy.
That's what I'm
no
saying.
Shade
I try.
If you are.
That's what I was gonna say. Like I try so hard not to be a hater because I have had good friends be in sororities,
but Alabama
I'm also
is
just
different.
like Alabama, like. I've learned more about it, like, living in the South, but, like you said, the racism, like, the girl code culture.
And just massage. I mean, it's, like, insane.
The fat shaming, the, like, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's my current fixation. I don't know.
Okay. I am so dry, honestly, just about PTSD. I feel like I've been having, like, a lot of just, like, random triggers pop up lately, like dreams, just like little minute experiences that cause me to like dissociate or just like travel back to the past. And like I've gotten a lot better at dealing with it, but it just like it's frustrating that I feel like I'm like 2 years, 3 years away from some of these experiences and they still pop up. But thankfully I have a therapist. The therapy hangover though, like sometimes when you talk about things in therapy and then the rest of the day you feel weird.
Yes.
So like it's just like a catch-22 because it's like you need to talk about these things, but also then there's that and you try to act normal. So like little frustrating.
Did you have therapy today? It's Friday.
No, I had it Thursday this week because she had to switch it. So it was yesterday.
Not
Thank
to like
God.
bless your schedule,
Thank God.
Dude, I feel that so much. I'm like taking a short break from therapy right now, and like that's definitely something I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
But it's like we all know, like you have to feel your sadness and all those feelings in order to move on. And I know it feels like you're still dealing with it 3 years later, but it's like you've come so far, babe. Like you have to just recognize that. But I know it's like it is kind of one of those like 2 steps backwards or
because healing isn't linear.
Forward.
It's not linear. And I need to be like, okay, it's like there's going to be waves. There's going to be waves. It's
you
fine.
got this. Yeah. And especially, like, being, like, dating, too. Like, that makes it 10 times harder.
Yes.
Like, when you're single, it's kind of like, you're not.
Whatever, fuck it,
I would say I'm so dry just because, like, I just feel like time needs to slow the fuck down. Like, literally the last time we, like, sat here. Like, I feel like I haven't taken a deep breath since we did this last. And now I'm, like, able to breathe again just because, like, I love doing this. It's not stressful. Like, it's just fun when, like, everything else just feels.
It can be stressful, though.
Okay, yeah, I know. But this is the fun part. Editing is stressful. Thinking about topics.
Outlines,
Right. But this is, like, fun. And even just, like just work is a lot. It's, like, I'm, like, applying for health insurance. Like, it's just a lot going on. And, like, even, like, I might be in trouble with my fucking building. Like, some shit went down.
Yeah, you haven't updated me. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I mean, nothing's really happened. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm just dry about that. Time be moving way too quick, and I just want to take deep breaths. But I feel good right now. So, yes. So let's get into the episode. Why you guys are all here. Basically, as I said, talking about sex work and stripping is not the easiest thing in the world for us to do. We definitely feel like it's important to talk about, and we are, like, there's a lot of happy things about it, and then there's not so happy things. So just be gentle with us, guys. We're really putting ourselves out there. I know no one's telling us to do so other than ourselves, but yes. And yeah, as Fiji said, it's not research heavy. We're going to be talking a lot about experiences specifically from the point of view from strippers and sex workers, and that's a big reason we didn't do polls either because I mean, I guess like the majority of our followers aren't sex workers or strippers. Yeah. Definitely we have some for
We know the ones that are, so we reached out to them.
We reached out to the ones that are, literally that, because I was just like, I don't really care about non-sex workers' opinions for this one.
Once the podcast is big enough, I feel like we will have strippers and sex workers, but right now we're so small that I feel like if we did, we would know. Yeah.
And we wanted to represent it like as best as possible. And again, we're talking about strippers, sex workers with celibacy. There's a lot trending online about celibacy right now. And at the very end of the episode, I do want to touch on it because I just found this interesting reel. So we will talk about that, and that can maybe be another episode. But again, this is all about sex workers. That is the center of this conversation. So I want to just start by reading like a tweet/quote with you guys. What it says is, sex worker women are not a separate class of women who exist to absorb the rage, anxiety, and sexualized violence of men so that other women are quote-unquote safe. They are also human women with the right to safety from violent men. And I just really liked that. Like, enough said, honestly. I don't really have anything to say about it, but that just kind of, like, sums up everything, like, for me. So, yeah. Okay, so to start, we are going to, like, just share a little bit about, like, our experiences, like, with sex work, established credibility, if you will. Fiji and I, like, definitely started our journey actually together, which is probably one of the many reasons why we are, like, so connected. But, yeah, we were 19.
19, yeah. We weren't of age.
No, we weren't of age, and we were at a club that was like alcohol. Like there's clubs that do alcohol and not fully nude, and then there's clubs that do fully nude and no alcohol.
Well, they did both.
Well, they get around the rules, but technically it's not allowed.
We weren't supposed to have alcohol. Like, they were supposed to just give us soda, and we would bring our own liquor, but a lot of times they would
if the bartender was cool with us. And then sometimes, like, they would, or no, here's what they would do, babe. They would literally, sometimes the guy would buy us a drink. I'd be like, okay, I want whiskey Coke. And they would pay for a whiskey Coke, but the drink the bartender handed
would just
me
be
was just a Coke.
Yeah, exactly. And it was $30. I remember the drinks were $30.
And I'm
but we'd only get tipped out $5 from them.
I know.
Yeah,
it was
I
such
remember
bullshit.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, so our journey started then. We kind of just like wanted to try it. Like, it wasn't really something we thought about a lot. I mean, we were 19. Like, we just wanted to do it. I don't really know how else other to put it. But so yeah, we did that in Boston. It was at a club like literally close to like where we were living. It was like in the center of our lives, just right there. Yeah. And we did it for like 9 months to a year. It kind of gets wishy-washy, but
you did it longer because I quit before you, and you had kind of quit. You had kind of gone back, but that was my only experience stripping was that time in college.
Right, but it was a lot, and yeah, I know. Yeah. I remember. I know. I'm like, she quit, but I was like, I have to keep going. But then I was like, oh, I can't do it without her. Yeah. So anyways, we had that experience together. Like, we were always together in the locker room, getting ready. We even went to champagne rooms together.
We went on stage together.
We went on stage. Like, we were almost a package deal.
Because I hated going on stage, and Autumn's a dancer. So, like, I could hide behind that and then talk to people.
But you still had some moves. It's like in the lights.
I would just walk.
Yeah. And then we low-key were, kind of sad after. Like, definitely some stuff went down. We weren't like, oh, yay, that was great, like, but we're done. Like, we were kind of just like, and then we stopped.
And I think we also weren't the happiest when we started, but our depression and mental health stuff definitely got worse during and after because the hours were long. We were still going to school. Like, we would get back late. We would probably drink too much, smoke too much weed, maybe sometimes do other things. And it would just like, like
cigarettes,
we were just
OD in that bathroom.
Right. Like, we were young, inexperienced, and not making like the best decisions. And it definitely like cost us.
It's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
It's a very nice way to say it. But yeah, and then fast forward, like, now I'm living in LA, Fiji's in Atlanta. I was like, I think 22, 23, got involved with a pimp-like individual that wasn't actually a pimp, but made it very easy for me to relive my strip club dreams that I genuinely, like, I wanted to go back. Yeah. So I stripped out here in California for like 2.5 years. I did some in San Francisco, like literally only stripped at that one club in San Francisco maybe like 7 or 8 times. But I was like there all day working doubles.
And
like, it was
Vegas, right?
Vegas almost. I kind of chickened out. Vegas kind of scared me a little bit. Yeah. And you have to have like a card
permit.
I didn't have one. Like, I was so clueless. I had no idea. So I did go to Vegas for that reason, then just hit the casino, bitch. I don't know. But yeah, and then so stripping, all of that, it was like 2.5 years. It was pretty consistent, but also kind of like was off and on at some points. And I did OnlyFans as well. I like stripping way better than OnlyFans. Fiji's also had some like sexting experiences.
Because like before I had gone to like the strip club, when I was in London, I had done like some sex work-esque things, and then I had also like sold some pictures, but I never did OnlyFans. But I always liked the idea of the strip club more because like being in person, it felt like a separate life, a separate identity versus like online, it's more likely to be found, like those things. That's just how I felt. I felt the same way. Yeah,
like I had OnlyFans and I definitely put effort in for maybe like 6 months, but I was stripping at the same time, and I was making so much more money doing that. So it was just kind of like, whatever.
It's a lot of work. Like, content is a lot of work.
Yeah. We've done a lot.
I've never gone back to stripping. I will say every time that I've been between jobs, like even this past year,
it always pops into my
head. Like I have a pair of stripper shoes, and like I have girls that I know that I've even DM girls. Like I've really thought about it.
But yeah, so we've done like different forms of sex work, and yeah, it's just it's a big conversation, but I just wanted to let you guys know like more specifically like what we've done, just because like most people listening to this podcast don't really know anything about us. So
yeah.
That's kind of our brief story. We'll definitely go into it more one day, but that's essentially like our connection to sex work and all of that. So this article was like one of the only ones we found that like did correlate celibacy with sex work. She said, "I'm a very open and public sex worker and a published writer whose work focuses on issues relating to sex work and sexuality. I loved my 10 plus years working as a sex worker. In fact, I never found it anywhere near as degrading and dehumanizing as my interactions with boyfriends and lovers in my personal life. While I don't want to negate the reality of some people's very true experiences with violence and coercion in the sex industry, I myself am a sex trafficking survivor. I found much of my sex working experience to be positive, respectful, and defined by clear boundaries and consent." And I just feel like that's rare, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it does happen, though. And it's like, it definitely defies all stereotypes. And I love that she said, like, I don't want to negate anything. I'm not saying that, like, this is, you know, this is the right way to be a stripper, is to not, you know, have shit happen to you. But I just think it's good for people to hear. Like, you never really hear about the positives about stripping unless it's, I'm making money. That's the only positive you really hear. Like, I'm going to just make money, be a stripper. But it's like, you can feel positive and like so in tune with your sexuality. Like for me, it really was like an awakening, not like this is what I'm meant to do, but like rather than feeling shame about being so sexual, I was like, this is actually like a gift that I have, that I am so open and able to like be so free about sex. Like not everyone's like that.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, for me, it totally helped a lot in unlearning shame just about being, like, overly sexual or being super flirty or all of those things. Like, finding a way where that was, like, appreciated and I was making money off of it, all of those things, like, definitely was super positive. But, yeah, I do think it's interesting that, like, her experiences with boyfriends and stuff can be worse. Because, like, I don't know, in some ways feel that, because my experience with, like, a long-term partner was what I think a lot worse than a lot of the things I experienced in the strip club, and I did experience some bad things in the strip club. However, I don't know if I would have ended up in that relationship had I not stripped so close to meeting him.
Yeah. It's also so hard to compare, because it's like your heart's not really in it in the strip club, where your heart was so much in it in that relationship.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's like that makes sense, but I know it's interesting that she said that. I caught that too. I was like, damn. Because for me, I feel like I think the worst has happened at the strip club, not in my personal relationships. And like, I mean, I feel lucky for that my relationships haven't been. But at the same time, like the strip club. So, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me finish reading. She said, "Well, I was an active sex worker. I tried to date in my personal life, but for me, it was just too difficult to find a cisgender heterosexual man who would or could understand that sex work is work and not feel threatened about it." Preach. 4 years ago, I stopped using drugs and alcohol after many years of struggling with addiction. I was no longer doing sex work, and as part of this new road to healing, I sought a new relationship to men and sex in my personal life through celibacy. So up until a few months ago, I hadn't had sex, paid or unpaid, in 4 years. I really wanted to focus on choosing healthier, less toxic men in my non-work sex life. And that's going to be a big trend throughout this episode. Like, a lot of people refer to it as, you know, professional sex life and recreational sex life.
Yeah.
Because there is such a difference, like having sex in your personal life versus doing a sexual act at the strip club. I mean, it's completely different. Like how it registers in your brain, your body, like it's a fully different experience in my opinion. And so she, you know, she's based, like, it's like I was trying to show that this happens. Like people are sex workers for a long or short period of time. and celibacy is often a part of their healing journey, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that she brought up how addiction plays a role, because I
Right.
think, like, I definitely felt that. Like, I've always kind of, like, for me, sex, drugs, and alcohol, like, the addictions, like, blur sometimes, and I haven't had the best relationship with both, whether, like, it was professional sex work or, like, in my own recreational life, you know? But yeah, I definitely feel that. So it makes sense to me why she would take a break from substances and all
sex.
forms of sex at the same time, because I feel like I kind of did that when I was celibate. I think it was only for like 6 months last year. I like was kind of taking a break from like partying as well. I did still go out, but like not as much. I was still drinking on the podcast and stuff like that. But like for me, a lot of times those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. And it's like for me too, like I think like my drug of choice when I was stripping in California wasn't necessarily because we used to drink. Like we used to drink for the club together. I never drank at that club. I would do Adderall.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky that I never developed an addiction to Adderall, even though I was doing it a lot. So arguably it's like, I think you did. But what I'm trying to say is when I stopped stripping, I wasn't doing Adderall anymore.
Right.
So I feel like really lucky. I know how addictive that drug is, like genuinely, but yeah, like that was what I was on Addy at the club. Bitch.
Yeah.
I was talking my fucking ass off, like
yeah.
But yeah,
because we would drink Red Bull before, like when we first started, we would drink a ton of Red Bull to have like, because I would do that for waitressing shifts as well. Like you need that like boost, and like in such a high paced environment where you're moving your body, you're talking, you have to be alert and aware. You sometimes feel like you need to like rely on these substances for that extra help.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah,
like, I felt like I couldn't do it if I didn't have it
without it. I felt like I couldn't without. Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to talk. Like I just didn't really give a fuck. Like about these fucking people.
I would be too shy or like too awkward,
like
I think, especially going on stage and stuff like that. Like I felt like I needed alcohol to loosen me up. But it was a fine line, because I don't think there's anything wrong with like having like a drink or two to loosen up. But like when it gets too much is where you kind of got to like watch yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I quit. But like the other thing, like I know like it does register for me to separate recreational from like paid work, but I've also always had a hard time with that. And I feel like because of like the hypersexuality of like doing it for work, I would be hypersexual with like intimate partners and not know how to do like as much of the emotional stuff. And that was like an issue in some of my relationships, because like I would just like go into autopilot, you know what I'm saying? So like even though your brain does definitely register, I'm not like intimately attracted to this man, he's just paying me, that's what this is. I think when it comes to intimate relationships with men outside of the strip club, I would like have a hard time removing that mindset all the time. Even if I did like them, it was almost like my body was like going through the motions of like disconnecting.
And just in men in general. I felt like every man walking around when I wasn't in the strip club, they were like ready to pay me for shit. Like
yes, especially
like,
older men.
Right.
I remember
would
like
seek
being
them out.
hyper aware, like when we were in college, especially like having male professors. And like just older men, like bosses, like whatever. I just remember like becoming like hyper aware of like
what they would pay,
what they would do if like I turned it on. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so weird.
Or we were in that environment specifically.
Yeah.
And I think too, on top of that, like a lot of kinks developed for me through doing OnlyFans and stripping. Like a lot of fantasies are mine are like, you know, like it's kind of related to that. Like being recorded is like one of my top fucking kinks because of OnlyFans. Because of like how hot that was when he would record me like that. And so that's where it gets blurred too. It's like I want everyone to like record me now, but like I shouldn't, you know?
I feel that. I don't feel the recording as much, but for me it's more like being in control or initiating things or teasing. Yeah. Like both of those, like I wanted to always like be in control and make certain moves first before like they could. Like I couldn't relax as much. Like even with like boyfriends before I had done sex work, I feel like I was much more relaxed like for them to eat my pussy and like them to lead things. Versus after, I felt like I wanted to like initiate things more with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, like, before we get into like the next experience we're gonna share, like, we can just briefly talk about ourselves too. Like, I think for me, like, the first time that I stripped and we stripped together, like, I didn't really practice celibacy after that. I think I didn't really take the time to really heal. I was like, I don't really remember, but I know that, like, after my stripping out here in California, like, I've literally been celibate for a while. And I did, like, when I was in Atlanta, I fucked those two guys.
Yeah.
And then I had my ex-girlfriend. But it's literally just them three since, like, 2022 when I stopped or whatever. So it's just, like, and it wasn't intentional. I mean, it's, like, arguably intentional because I'm not seeking it out. I'm not, like, you know, I have people I could have hung out with and I'm not doing that. But I wasn't like, I'm going to be celibate because I need to heal from being a sex worker. It just, like, kind of happened where I was, like, not as, like, excited about having sex. Like, I wanted to get fucked and, like, feel good. But I didn't want to go through the whole thing. And I think it's because, like, I really disassociated at the strip club a lot. And I'm, like, scared to, like, do that again, maybe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like when we started stripping the first time, you were in a relationship. You were in a long-term, like, long-distance relationship.
Crazy, bitch. With the
Like,
woman of my dreams.
I know.
Like, what was I doing? She didn't... Anyways, go ahead.
But, so you had, like, an active sex life, but it was spread out. I wasn't seeing anyone at that time, and I don't think I really, like, had any casual sex at all, really, until, like, after I finished stripping. And I remember, like, meeting my ex, and I really wanted to have sex with him. Like I said, I was kind of in that zone. Go ahead.
We met your ex after we were done.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Well, we were still, like, we weren't stripping, but we were still in
like,
certain...
technically employed.
Like, yeah, exactly. We were in and out. Like, I think you had gone back a couple times. We were also, like, there was, like, a guy that, I don't know, he had tried to, so my ex, his uncle was a pimp, and he had, like, been kind of, like, raised by him in certain senses, so he had, like, pimp mentalities about things, and he knew me and Autumn's past, so, like, there were instances where he had, like, kind of tried to, like, pimp
He wasn't
us.
smart enough to do it.
He wasn't smart, like, I always thought he was so dumb, we didn't need him, like, I was very, like, fuck this, whatever.
Do it ourselves.
We could do it ourselves. We don't need you. But I remember, like, one being, like, very, like, I wanted to have sex with him because I hadn't had sex in a while with, like, anyone I really liked, and I did like him. But he was very, like, no about, like, having sex because he looked at me as, like, a hoe. Even though, like, we had this relationship where he was staying, it was so complicated. So, like, I feel like I was half having sex, half not. And I remember, like, feeling dirty about myself, like, because of those instances. And then he would try to... So that was weird. But then, like, later when I did become celibate, I think it was more just about me being single and going out and using strip club behaviors when I didn't need to. And I just wanted to take a break because I thought that I had to relearn sex and, like, intimacy, you know?
No, it makes so much sense. And I'm thinking about it, too, like... Even the second time I stripped, I was in a fucking relationship. Like, I was getting dick down every single night. And, like, that's just crazy to me. Like, I feel like, and me and him, like, it was a very, like, it's the fucking guy I always talk about. But he... Yeah.
Pimp mentalities as well.
What'd you say?
Pimp mentalities as well.
Oh my God.
Like, more loving, I would say. Like,
but he wanted to pretend, like, play the game as if, like, it was,
and
like,
it was
we,
role
like,
play in a
cosplayed
way.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't actually a thing. So, like, I wasn't, like, giving him, like, hundreds of dollars at the end of the night.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's just interesting, but I also do feel like it's also, like, maybe that was too much for me, you know? Like, maybe that's why I have been celibate for so long as well. It's like I was getting dick down every night, but also, like, doing things at the strip club. Like, it was just a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we both feel that. We feel the need for celibacy and also just the need to, like, find that balance, relearn, like you said, because it's like you kind of do need to not, like, relearn sex and intimacy, but, like, re-register your mind that, like, you're not in the strip club environment right now. Like, this is not
compartmentalize it, kind of.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Good word. Yes. But let's get into our first listener story. We did reach out to one of our friends. Her name is Lucy, and she is 20-inch pleasers on Instagram. We'll have a cute
Bad
little
bitch.
graphic. She's awesome. We actually did meet her in person before when we were in
I
Boston.
saw that message. I feel like I have a vague memory because she said she met us on the street, and I'm like
what
during
were we
that
doing?
time period, that makes sense to me. Like us,
we were definitely smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, probably. And like I did think she looked kind of familiar, so I'm like that does make sense. But yeah,
Right.
like I love her dancing videos, like great on the pole. Like
I
always see
kind
her
of
on
lived
Instagram.
through her because
Yeah.
like part of me wishes that I could be doing that right now, but we were not stripping right now.
Yeah.
I still think about going back literally all the time, but currently we're not doing it. But anyway, she was generous enough to share, some of her story with us and also her thoughts around this. So we're going to play her voice memos for you guys now.
I think my thoughts specifically around sex work and celibacy, it doesn't surprise me at all that many sex workers oftentimes in their personal life will go through a moment or a period of time where they're going to completely refrain from sex in their personal life. I've seen this cause issues in relationships with my friends. I've had issues in relationships with myself. Oftentimes when you're put in a position where you have to be so saturated in sexuality and put yourself in a position to perform sexuality even outside of feeling sexually charged internally, it's gonna fucking destroy your sex drive and your recreational time. I personally find myself as an outlier in those specific situations. For me, I find it really important to have a balance where if I'm performing sexuality in a professional sense, whether it be performing dances on stage or other various forms that I'm not sure I want to broadcast on a podcast, I personally find it's really important for myself to be engaging in fulfilling, satisfying, good forms of recreational sex in my free time if I am performing sexuality, especially to like a high degree in terms of like how many customers I'm servicing a night. If I'm going through like a couple hours in a champagne room, that's a lot of intensity to burn through, and I want to make sure that I personally feel pleasured in my free time as much as I'm pleasuring other people. I think one of the problems that I have personally in finding good sex in my personal life is being an individual that is so deeply in touch not only with my own sexuality, but I'm more often than not, I find I'm in touch with a stranger's sexuality sometimes more than they themselves are. It's really, really challenging being in a place where I can tune in so deep to just my sexual side, and man, I might have partners that are like slutty or, like to participate in sex, but I never have partners that such a deep aspect of their life is so centric about understanding sexuality and sensuality that, man, it's hard to find someone who can keep up with my fucking pace.
Okay, so one of the things that I really like that she said, which I feel like connects to kind of what we were talking about before, is that like the environment of the strip club is so saturated in sex. Like that's such a good word, first of all. That like in your recreation,
like so smart. And
no, literally, like
intimidating.
Perfect.
It's like you, low-key. I'm like, wait.
No, but saturated, would not have thought of that. But you're so like saturated in sexuality that it like can destroy it in your recreational time.
Right.
And I also loved how she said that, she has a lot of like sexual experiences, like overexposure in the champagne room, that she wants to give as much pleasure to herself. And I feel like that to me is just so much like sexual maturity and also like knowing yourself and loving yourself, because I think that's where I went wrong in it. Like, one, I was like 19. Two, like, I don't think I had any real sex life outside of the strip club, like during those time periods. So like there was no record. Like, I would masturbate, but even back then I didn't have a vibrator. Like, I don't think I got one. Yeah, I didn't get a vibrator till later. So it was like just pure old-fashioned hands, and it was not
the
like
real way, guys.
Yeah, and I don't think that I was like balancing because I had some weird experiences in the strip club, you know, when you kind of get turned on by things and it is like, feels like pleasure, but then that can be confusing as well, because then you're like, oh, like I'm doing this for money, I shouldn't feel like whatever. So like I don't know, like I had a weird relationship with my own sexuality. I don't think I gave it enough like time and love and effort.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear your perspective, dude, because that part specifically, when she said that like she makes sure that like she's pleasuring herself as much as others, like I literally almost teared up, bro, because I felt so much shame about that for so long.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not supposed to be pleasured right now. Like, I should, like, hate this. Like, I hate men. I just want to use them for their money. But then it's like the longer I went on stripping, it's like literally like hot guys would come in that I, honest to God, would go on a date with outside of it. Why the fuck? Like, now I can make money and feel good? Like, I was like, that's the best case scenario. And it's just like, I did feel shame about that. I felt shame about feeling pleasured by a guy that was like old. And we would never be in this situation otherwise. And part of that's like, it's taboo. Like, it's a rush. But it's also like, you know, I could like key about it with you and be like, yeah, like he actually like made me feel good. But deep down, like just knowing that's like, yeah, I got pleasure by that man.
The
like,
shame.
what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, what? Like, that's so weird. Like, he's obviously objectifying me. Like, why? You know, and like, so when she said that, and like to hear you say now that like you feel like that's a mature way of thinking about it, it's like that was the farthest thing from my mind. I would never think I was being mature in that. So like, thank you for saying that. And also, like, I just think it's so important. I don't hear a lot of strippers talk about that. It's very like, fuck men, make money, and I am 110% here for that mentality, bitch. But that, I'm like, that's vulnerable as fuck, and like it just made me like, I was just so happy that she said that.
And I think it's so weird because the way that we talk about like stripping and sex work so much, even in like music, culture, whatever, like even dating nowadays, we talk about all the time, like commodification of dating, transactional relationships, all of that stuff. Like the mentality that's pushed is very capitalistic, and it's very like, you need to detach yourself. You need to do these acts, like remove yourself, like whatever.
Skin, thick wall, build your fucking walls up so no one can hurt you.
And then do it, and you know, deal with it. Like kill that part of yourself. And like, I feel like that did prevent me in some ways from like being a successful stripper and doing it longer and making it a good experience, because like I had that one sugar daddy that like you like worked with him as well, but like. It was like, I know you didn't have the best experience, but like he, to me, was like a nice guy. You said what?
I was sick, so I got him sick, so it was fine.
Yeah.
I felt, like, good about that.
Yeah, payback. But like he had told me like he had gone to some of his like old sugar babies, like weddings, like he had like long-term like relationships with them. Like he wanted to have like more of a like relationship with me. And I think what I was so afraid of was, one, the fact that like at one point, like I was somewhat like sexually attracted to him. Like he did turn me on. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then also like intimacy, I think beyond just like the sex acts was always like a part I wanted to detach from, because it's like, if you're a client, I want to make money from you. I don't want to have any sort of like further relationship, and to be turned on, sometimes that can connect it. But like when you hear about strippers with long-term sugar daddies or whatever, there is like a two-way street of pleasure as well, and that's okay. You don't need to be a sex robot.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. Because it's very much like you think you do need to be a sex robot to like survive. It sounds so morbid, but like survive mentally and like get your job done or whatever. It's like, and yeah, I was never interested in like a sugar daddy type of relationship. Like it sounded good, and I probably like maybe would have tried it, but that's where I draw the line. Like I'm not, because a lot of those, and even a lot of my regulars at the strip club, they wanted that romantic situation, and like I can fake it in VIP like for the night, but to like during the day, like go get lunch with one of those guys. I think that's where I draw the line. I just couldn't have done that. Yeah. I like to do it when the lights are off. It's 3 a.m. So, because that's a whole nother, like, I can let you in, like, sexually, but, like, romantically and, like, actually who I am, fuck no.
Well, I think it's that, but, like, also, like, beyond that, just, like, I think you have to let people in to a certain degree to like feel your own pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And I think like there were times at the strip club where I was turned on by what I was doing, but I would just like freak out, disassociate, and not want to feel those things. But like, what's so wrong with that?
I know.
You know, like that level of intimacy where it doesn't have to go to like lunch or anything like that. Like, it's just like, I feel like honestly, when it came towards me quitting, I almost wanted to, partly because of that guy, because like he became a regular and he wanted to see us more outside, which I think we would have been able to like create boundaries, but like that part of things like scared me, you know?
Yeah, it scared me too, for sure. Like, especially even like there's like a couple of guys like genuinely like liked, like I thought they were good people. Maybe they were completely acting with me like I was with them, but like, you know, and so it does, when it crosses that line, it can get a little weird. And that's why they tell you to like be so strong and like thick with it, so it doesn't get to that point. But exactly what you're saying, it's like, why do we feel so shame about that too?
Yeah. Because
at the end of the day, like, we are just human beings, and like these men are like literally worshiping us. Like, I've literally been worshipped by men, like fucking like on their knees. Like, it's like trippy, bro. Like, anything else she said too, like she said at the end, she was like, I'm so deeply like in touch with my sexuality and like even strangers, like she feels that like emotional or like sexual intelligence with them. But she's like, it's hard to find a partner that can match that. Like, no one's like as in tune with it as me, or as their life is as centered around it as me. And that's so real. Like, I definitely think we should do an episode like dating while stripping, which, because I think like it's a big topic, and I feel like, you know, she's obviously like, it's been challenging for her to deal with that, because she's a stripper right now.
Yeah, I think the part that she said about how she can be like in touch so much with like a stranger's sexuality was really interesting to me, because like I feel that as well, and sometimes to a fault. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm in touch with strangers' sexuality more than my own, or like prioritize it or think of their sexuality versus my own because of that like work. You know, it's like, again, like you can try to compartmentalize it because like, but because I think we started when we were like young or whatever, like I think I can like almost feel that aura of someone's like sexual like wants, desires, whatever, like feel that projecting, but then like prioritize that versus my own.
Yeah, and you feel like in your like like your relationships too, like not.
Yeah, I think that's something that's like stayed with me, like, and I think that goes into like the control to a degree too. Like I want to like pleasure other people. Like, I still definitely get my own pleasure in my intimate relationships and, like, want that for sure. But I think, like, my impulse, even on, like, hookups, like, one-night stands, like, all of those things is very much, like, being in touch with the stranger's sexuality. Right. And not as much my own. And I think that's also just a woman thing sometimes to a degree.
I was going to say, yeah. But it's also, like, it's a part of your job as a sex worker to be in touch with their sexuality. Like, you literally have to read the vibe, like, see where this is going, like, see, you know, like, that is what we, like, trained ourselves to do. And it's, like, naturally that stuff is going to spill over into our, you know, because it's, like, you talk about paid sex versus recreational sex. It's so different, but at the end of the day, it's sex, you know? Yeah. But it's just, like, it feels different, and only, like, a sex worker, like, would get that. Like, I don't think, like, non-sex workers, like, really get that. Maybe they do. I don't know. Last thing I'll say is she also said that she is essentially, like, kind of an outlier. Like, she's worked really hard to, like, prioritize and, like, make sure she has balance in her, you know, professional sex life and recreational sex life. So I think that's awesome, and it's definitely, like, that is, like, the key. Like, if someone is feeling bad about it, it's, like, you do need to maintain that balance or focus on one or the other for now, or whatever feels good to you. But, you know, I'm happy for her. Like, that's amazing.
I admire that, honestly, because I feel like that's, like, the biggest thing that I was not able to, like, overcome and still, like, sticks with me today. So it's, like, that's, like, and that's, like, you know, what it should be. Like, if you are doing this type of work, I think that that's something that you really need to, like, pay attention to, give time to. Therapy, like, be in touch with your body, masturbate, like, all of those things, like, if not more so, because of like, you know, you're in it so much.
Yeah, it's so saturated.
Yes, saturated
Literally.
per.
But yes, thank you so much for submitting. If you're listening, we love you. Thank you for, you know, finding a safe space in us. And yeah, thanks for submitting. Now we're going to dive into some Reddit threads, my friends. Okay, so this is literally the r/stripper, the OG, the Reddit stripper thread. And someone posted saying, really curious about how many other strippers are celibate and why. Chime in. I personally have not had any interest in sex or dating in years now because of this job. And now we're going to read some responses. So someone said, I'm celibate for 2023 while I backpack the world after stripping through 2022. Just for myself. After seeing the side of men that work introduced me to and how the people that come to the club see us, I've decided to protect my energy and focus on myself instead of falling in love with every man that treats me well. And I just think that's so real. It's like, it's kind of like bad, like how much your view of men changes when you're a stripper. And I really think it's unavoidable. And like, I fucking hated men before I even was a stripper. I was fucking furious by the time I was a stripper. And, like, I think when I was stripping in California, I kind of did hate men less. I mean, I was with one, so it was a little bit, like, back then I was, like, pure lesbian. So I was very much, like, rah, rah, angry lesbian vibes. But, yeah, it's just, like, you see there's all walks of life in the strip club. Your dad, the mailman, a fucking cop, the fucking bitch that cuts your nails. Like, everyone's in there. Every single person. So, yeah.
It exposes to you to like this whole other like underground deep-seated world that like I feel like we're aware of but like naive to unless we're like really in it, and then it's hard to again compartmentalize. Like you kind of need to like refresh. Like I totally understand backpacking, like you know what I'm saying? Like you need to, and I think that's why I wanted to get into like I was almost kind of okay with a man controlling me to a degree because I wanted to like let go and not try to like put up all these walls and be like on alert or whatever. I mean, I ended up being even more so in the relationship, but like in a way you almost like are more apt to fall in love with any man that you meet because you're just so like it's so taxing that you just want to like relax into like what love could be or what a good relationship could be, you know?
Yeah, babe, you've never said that to me. That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But it makes, I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot. That makes a lot of sense, though. And I feel like, yeah, sorry, that just threw me off. That's pretty intense, babe. You really feel that way?
Yeah, I definitely do. Like, I feel like, I mean, I think, like, personally, I always struggled with, like, a lot of shame about the sexuality just because, like, Catholic school, like, growing up in a small suburb town, like, my parents have been together since high school. Like, I had sex early and, like, what's called this. Like, I just had a complicated relationship with it. So I feel like I needed to explore it, but then almost felt guilty after and wanted to retreat to heteronormativity and the safety that a man could provide, but it was all a false truth and he was not the right man. So you know what I'm saying? It's almost
and
like
also
a like
like
boomerang.
A man that was like very like slut, like shaming women. It's like you're like, I want to get so far away from that.
Exactly.
Because and he was never gonna let you quote unquote because he can't, you know what I mean? But it's like that it was almost safe for you in a way. You're like, well, this man literally hates strippers, so obviously I can never do that again if I'm with him.
Yeah, he didn't though, because he was like okay with
like love
me
hate
stripping. Like he like admired strippers in a weird way, but like he would compartmentalize them as like people he wouldn't love. And so like I felt like I needed to like become more of a like good girl to like be with him, and he would also withhold sex from me. So like because of like whatever. So I felt like it was almost this like safe place of like going back to like what we're taught and what you know, because that was like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I know. It's intense. Like, and it really affects you in so many ways. So like, shout out to this person, like backpacking to heal, because what the fuck?
That's the right way to do it versus fall in love with any man. So shout out to her.
Yeah. Okay, this next person said, because I'm very focused on protecting my body, mind, and soul. I'm not interested in being intimate with a man unless we truly have a connection. and this job, aka stripping, has helped me hone my intuitive skills. I don't see myself fucking some guy just because, like, no, LOL. I really need there to be something more. And this was a big trend throughout a lot of the responses, like, really not wanting to have sex just to have sex when you're a stripper. And I don't think it's true for everyone, but it was like a theme for a lot of these responses. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I kind of get that because, I mean, that's how I felt when I did become celibate, which was like way after I'd been stripping, like literally like 5 or 6 years. But I did feel like I was veering towards the, like, I want to have a connection. I don't know, like,
and not just do the mindless thing.
Right.
You
And I
know?
think it, like, being a stripper, like, desensitizes you to, like, we talk about in other episodes, like, the oxytocin that women have, like, when you, like, do sex acts or, like, cuddle or, like, whatever, and it kind of, like, desensitizes you to that stuff. So it's, like, almost like you want it to be, like, more special, like, just giving a lap dance or doing, like, a sex act. Like, it doesn't feel in the way that sometimes, like, I think we're, as women, like, more apt to associate that with, like, oh, this man really likes me. You don't think about that as much.
Right.
So because you prioritize it. Yeah.
Again, to use the word saturated, it's like casual sex is, like, so saturated in your life. That's, like, all, and even if it's not sex, it's, like, lap dances, like that. When we say sex, that's what I mean. Like, all the sensual things that you do at the strip club that are very sexual, whether you're touching or not.
Yeah.
It's like okay, well, in my personal life, like, I want something fucking real. Like, I don't want to play games here too.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think for me, I just don't really like sensual sex. So, like, and maybe, like, yeah, I don't know. I just have a lot of sex issues, guys. All right, this next response said, I'm not celibate. However, I only have sex for money, LOL. Not interested in fucking men for free anymore. Someone said, because working with raunchy men makes me hate them in the idea of intimacy, LOL. A year in, meaning celibacy, because men ain't shit. Show me someone who deserves it. Someone said, I am celibate for 2 years, started dancing almost a year ago. I just don't think anyone deserves the cooch or my mental stability. And the I'm not fucking for free anymore, I was definitely on that vibe for a fucking while when I was stripping.
Yeah.
Like, I felt that really hard because, this was so healing to read these, honestly, bro. Like, oh, God, like, I do not have enough sex worker friends.
See, I feel so differently about the not fucking for free one. And I like...
Good.
I
Makes
just
the
feel
podcast
like it's
interesting.
Like, thank God for that relationship that I had in college with that, like, kind of basic man that, like, it was never going to work out. Yeah. I went into college dating, but like we had a very good sex life. Like, he was very loving. He prioritized my pleasure. Our entire relationship, I didn't suck his dick once,
which is crazy because you love that.
Now I do, but back then I didn't, and he ate my pussy all the time. So, like, I think that, like, I had a good relationship, iffy, but, like, at least I had experienced, like, really good intimacy with someone that had loved me and, like, really good, like, sensual sex.
Yeah.
So I think, and with the shame, I don't think I could have ever let myself completely just want to fuck for money, which I think is good for me, honestly, because, like, I do still love, like, sex for pleasure, you know?
Yeah.
Even if it was hard.
Yeah. That's different than me for sure. Mm-hmm. I, like, thrived off of the only wanting to fuck for money. But I think
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. But I do think after a while it makes you feel a little like that's not really how it should be. Like, it's definitely a phase that you can go through. But I think in general to only want to have sex for money, unless you're, like, asexual or I don't know, like, that's not good.
I was about to say that, the asexual thing, because I'm like,
but I don't
do you think there's asexual
strippers?
Yeah, because
that just seems horrible for them.
But it's like, technically it's sex work. Like, it's like your body is a tool, like your body and your brain, because it's not just your body, it's your brain as well. And, like, you're, like, you know, it's everything.
Because I'm also, like, I'm pretty ignorant on asexuality, to be honest
too.
with you. But, like, from what I, like, have learned about it through, like, hearing other people talk who are, it's like, I would think that even though it is work, like they really don't want to do sexual things, that I feel like that would be hard for them. But who knows? I think it's also a spectrum. So it's like maybe they're asexual in some senses, but not all.
Like maybe asexual and like intimate, like recreational relationships and not at the strip club, something
like maybe
that.
they could dance on stage. Maybe they could dance from far away, but it's like a lap dance that's like grinding. Like, would that be too much?
Yeah. If you guys
It's
are
very
asexual
sexual.
or you have anything like information or anything, definitely drop a comment, because me and Autumn are a little ignorant to that, but open to learning.
Yeah, we are. Bitches are learning. But yeah.
No, the last thing I'll just say about that, it just reminds me of Shira 7 and like that whole mentality that's like trending so hard right now. And I think it's weird because like sex work and stripping was shamed so much when we were younger and when we were stripping. It was, but I feel like it was on the brink of becoming more normal because the movie Hustlers with like Cardi B and J-Lo and all that had come out, and Cardi B was becoming really famous. Like it was like the time where it was becoming more normalized versus now I feel like
P-Valley.
And that wasn't out yet. When you were stripping in California, that was out. But when we were stripping, love.
So triggering, but well worth it.
Such a good show.
Well,
I'm like, where is the
worth
next
it.
season?
Girl, I know. I used to watch it with my ex. I low-key think I would cry. Like, it was like our thing. Like, we watched together. But anyways,
I did with my ex too, But it was like, it wasn't normalized. It was becoming more normalized. So it was like kind of cool, but like our friend group did shame us. But now it's so much more normalized. Yeah. And now it's so much more normalized, just like with even like lyrics and like City Girls and like just talking about this stuff that I think.
OnlyFans.
Yeah. It's like
there wasn't OnlyFans when we did it.
No, that came in what? Like
I know
right
there was
before
other
the pandemic.
Sites, but OnlyFans.
Right before when we stripped, there wasn't OnlyFans.
There wasn't OnlyFans. Or it was like literally just came out. Like it was. And I know there's other porn websites. People have been doing OnlyFans
forever.
But OnlyFans just went so viral. It was like fucking
because Beyonce had a lyric about it. She was like something about OnlyFans. Like it became so much more mainstream.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think it's Cardi
was on
B.
OnlyFans. So he's like, I see that OnlyFans shit.
Yup.
Yeah. So guys, what a crazy time. It's honestly crazy to think that the OnlyFans wasn't a thing now, because it's just like everywhere. Like in every bitch's bio that's cute, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this last response we'll read is, this person said, after the guy I was dating and sleeping with for 4 months kind of just disappeared on me, still responds to me but stopped initiating texts, yet texted me to wish me a happy birthday, so I'm hella confused. I'm just over it. I sound like that cliche girl who always gets hurt, but unfortunately it's just true at this point. I had very strong feelings for this latest guy, and it felt like it was really heading towards a real relationship. Then ... nothing. It hurts so bad to think that I've had sex with 6 men in my life, and so far only 1 out of those 6 actually was interested in being my boyfriend. It just hurts. I just want to protect my energy, focus on finishing my bachelor's degree. Ironically, I've always felt way more used by men in the real world than any strip club customer. At least that is transactional, so there's no mixed signals or hurt feelings. And it's always vanilla men who say we must feel so used. Yeah, by you. Just ugh. And it's like that last part is so fucking real. Like,
so real.
It's like it is transactional. There's this overall knowing of like, and a lot of people are respectful. I dealt with so many respectful men that fucking like would line up fucking Benjamin Franklin's on the fucking stage for me, bitch. Like, it exists. And so I get like this is echoed from what we heard earlier. Like this, a lot of people feel like that way. And I think it is because your heart's not in it. Exactly. It's transactional. Maybe you do develop some sort of feelings for guys at the strip club. It's all situational. But your average customer, it's transactional. And no one's getting hurt emotionally, you know?
Yeah,
hopefully.
And they know what it is. Like, I feel like we had that TikTok a while back where we were, like, joking about the guys at the strip club, like, their first time or, like, whatever. Like, those dudes
that
never spend any money.
Yeah.
But the guys that really be spending the money, the guy trying to fall in love at the strip club, but the guys that really be spending a lot of money, I feel like for the most part, in my experience, like they know what the fuck this is. They fucked with other strippers before, so it's like they respect you, and they have their own life outside of this. So it's like you're aware of what this relationship is, and it's a transactional one. Yeah. Versus in the outside world, it's like it's so much more blurry, and like I think guys, I find it's both ways, because I think guys have a hard time communicating like if they just want to fuck or if they are using you or whatever because they're afraid that you're gonna like not want to fuck with them anymore, like whatever. But then I also think in my experience I've been the one that's like misinterpreting shit, like where they do tell you and you're like, oh no, they must really like me because they're spending time, like, you know what I'm saying, like they're spending time with me, they're thinking this, like how she is like, oh, like I thought this was a connection going somewhere, right? And it's outside the context of the strip club, so like you're like, obviously there has to be feelings, but it's not, you know?
And I feel like it's like everyone hates on strippers, like people even hate on people that go to the club, but it's like at least we have like a, you know, direct line of communication. We're being honest. We set boundaries. In the real world, it's so just like up in the air, and you know, it does make sense that like you would be more emotionally hurt by like your real life, and that's gonna hit you harder. But honestly, to say that like men in real life are worse than the strip club, like y'all should kind of wake up and hear that, because men in the strip club aren't fantastic. Like that's not really like, it's like, oh, well, duh, they fucking should be. But it's like, you know, so it's sad, honestly. And I think,
like, I don't know. I feel both ways, because I feel so much more hurt by men in the outside world because you open them up to a different layer of yourself.
Yeah.
But I definitely, like, I also feel like because of everything that you see in the strip club, it brings a different mentality into your real life recreational relationships, where like I am so much more hyper aware of like wanting, and almost in a desperate way, of them to care about my intellect and things beyond my body, because I am so used to being cared for my body. So it's like you almost like want it so much more, so you're almost setting yourself up for hurt more.
I think it's a queer thing for me too, dude, because honestly, like when I attribute like heartbreak and like being emotionally wrecked by someone, I do think about like my like first girlfriend. Like that was my biggest heartbreak. Like, yes, my last boyfriend like hurt me, but it's almost like I know it's like, well, he's a man, so I kind of expected it. So I just think that like I've been hurt more by women emotionally, that it's just like, the strip club guys, because like they like, you know, shit's happened. So
even like, no, go ahead.
No, that was it.
I was going to say, even when you said earlier how, like, you hated men, and then, like, it got, like, more complicated when you started dating a man, like, that is so true, because I feel like thinking back on you at this time, and, like, correct me if I'm wrong. But,
I
like,
love when you reminisce about the old me.
But I'm like, I think you were like so in your like empowered lesbian era where you really just loved women and you really saw men as like transactional, that you almost saw yourself as more invincible than you were to certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't think of like men as like these whole human beings kind of. No. So like you didn't think that they would hurt you. Yes. So like your first experiences being hurt by men, like besides like family stuff and like whatever,
were
like
in the strip club.
In the strip club.
Right. Yeah. Because even in high school, it's like, and I definitely like, I talk about all the time, I sucked dick in high school. Like I was very like, I loved sucking dick, but no man hurt me emotionally in high school like that. Yeah. I had crushes. I liked them, but it was all women. Like, women broke my heart in high school. Like, completely fucking shattered. Like, so it's just like, it's like, that's so true. Like, that was, besides family, it's like, that was the first time. And it's like, yes, I had been objectified by men before.
Right,
like, or women. Time. But that was intense, like, situations. Like, I wasn't having a lot of sexual experiences with men at all. Like, I've, like, when you, like, really balance it out, like, I've probably had more professional sex with men than recreational. Like, honest to fucking God. Because,
and that's so interesting. Because it's funny, because at the strip club that we worked at when we were younger, I remember there being, like, a lot of like lesbians and queer women at the strip club, because I think there's also a good portion of like queer women that only date women and don't date men.
Yeah.
But that's so like such an interesting experience now that we're talking about it and thinking about it like that, because it's like, you know, like to be almost like in this oversaturated like environment where all of your not first because like you had sucked dick in high school and everything, but like so much sex with men like at once outside of the context of like any sort of like longer intimacy must feel like really different.
With my lesbian armpit hair, like,
yes.
And I did feel invincible. I was like, these bitches cannot hurt me, but that was so far from the truth. Like, anyone can hurt you, and also like, and then when I met my boyfriend and my ex-boyfriend, we're not together, and I was stripping again, like. I kind of humanized men a lot more, because I was like, okay, I genuinely actually like care if he dies. Like, I want him around. Like, I think like he's not a menace to society completely. Like, I was like, I am able to love a man. Like, wow, that's crazy. Never thought I would see that in my lifetime. And so I think that's why, like, I had more experiences at the strip club. Like we talked about in the beginning, maybe I was catching feelings a little bit because I humanized them more.
So next, guys, we want to go into this little spotlight segment that we are adding to our episodes, where we highlight a creator that we know, that we follow, that we've been connected with, and really just shout out their work and everything that they do. So the first person that we're going to spotlight is Shaun P. We met Shaun P. I feel like it's been almost a year ago. We found him on TikTok, and he was like such a supporter from the very beginning when we were really small. So like, it's always great when you connect with other creators that really like connect with you.
I know, he was literally there from the jump, low-key.
And one of the first men. To connect with us.
Yeah.
Which, like, you guys know, we get some, like, creepy men here and there. We get some hater men, whatever. But, like, Shaun P has always been someone that's just, like, sees the vision. Like, we want to work together in the future, all of those things. But Shaun P was born and raised in Sacramento, California. He grew up playing basketball in high school and college. And he always had a passion for fashion/styling. Fast forward to the present, now he's a fashion model wardrobe stylist with over 100 clients. He's a runway stylist/runway model and a costume designer for movies and films. He'll be walking in LA Fashion Week this October 2024. You better go, Autumn. We better see you there. And he will be featured in a magazine this summer in 2024. And he's also worked on 3 films as a wardrobe and costume designer so far this year. So he's really been killing it with the photo shoots. They also dropped a podcast, him and his friend Farmer Poe. It's called Pick Your Poison. Yeah. And they talk about like Risa Tisa. They talk about John Cena. They talked about the Diddy allegations, Nicki versus Meg. They talk about Cat Williams. Super new on YouTube. So shout out to Shaun P. We love you. Check out his content. All the links will be in the description, in the bio. And
yeah, thanks for supporting. This is a new segment that we're going to be doing moving forward. So if you guys are interested in, you know, us giving you a shout out, talking about your art, really whatever you want, whatever business you have, just email us and let us know. sowetsodry@gmail.com. The O's are zeros. And thank you, Shaun, for being our very first spotlight artist. Okay.
Hey.
So let's get back into the episode. We are going to move on to our second listener story from one of our other supporters and friends. She's one of Fiji's friends, and I did meet her when I was in Atlanta. She was so pretty. I low-key had a crush.
So sweet.
Her name's
She kills
Tay.
it with the outfits, and like she makes her own clothes.
And
like,
her
so
hair,
aesthetic.
like
her room too.
Dude.
Like I just live for the Instagram stories.
Me too.
Because she's so creative.
But yeah, we love her. Her Instagram is @TayStrip. She is just a great person, super talented, gorgeous. So Fiji will read a little bit of her story, and she was so generous to submit. Thank you seriously for submitting.
Okay, so Tay said, I've been stripping since 2017, fresh out of high school. I started doing it because the makeup, outfits, and stage lights really spoke to my inner baddie, and I just knew it was something I'd have fun with. Like we said, like she's amazing.
Right.
Anyway, however, this industry wasn't normalized in the media back then like it is now, and I got severely bullied for it. Everyone that I knew would pretend to be my friend, hang out with me, and then go spread rumors that I fucked them or just did horrible things for money, which wasn't true. This really shattered me, and I turned to Xans to numb myself, and it wasn't until 2020 I was fortunate to have time to reflect on what I was doing and who I actually was becoming. During this time, OnlyFans started taking off, and the exact girls that bullied me were putting links in their bios, so that really put more perspective for me. So in 2021, I put my princess heels back on and stepped back into my power. With that whole backstory being said, I'm still healing that version of me that was slut-shamed and dehumanized, and through celibacy, I found a lot of power and control over how I view myself. Being celibate these past 10 months has created more peace of mind than being in a relationship the past 3 years before. And I will continue to keep it going until I fully love myself and attract people in my life with that same love and respect. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my story, and I don't mind my name being mentioned.
So yeah, Fiji and I can definitely relate to this. Like, we kind of talked about it. Like, when we stripped, it wasn't as like trendy. Like, it was in like 2017, 2018. So we definitely relate to this a lot. Like, our friends like really took it kind of weird. One of my friends, like, all of a sudden started accusing me of stealing money from her. Mm-hmm. They would just kind of, like, talk about us behind our back and, like, not always invite us to things.
My roommate was like, your stripper shoes are just, like, we had all our shoes by the door, but she, like, focused on my stripper shoes. Like, it was just subtle little, yeah.
Yeah, because it was, like, we did kind of, like, we were, like, in kind of a rocky place with our friends at the time. But I feel like us deciding to strip really just, like, sealed the deal. Like, they definitely didn't look at us the same anymore. At the beginning, I remember they were like, oh, my God, no way. Like, but then I don't think they thought we were serious, you know? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, like, a month goes by, we're still doing it. Like, we just weren't friends with them anymore. Other things do come into play.
Yeah, like, there was, like, some other behaviors and stuff like that were not ideal. But, like, I would definitely agree with, like, what she said about, like, the slut shaming and all of that. Like, these were girls that we were friends with, and gay guys as well, that were, like, superficially supportive, but, like, fetishized it and also slut shamed it. And it just, like, it became, like, a very clear, like, yeah, like, accuse you of stealing money, like, all of that stuff was not.
Yeah, like, yeah. And I think when I was stripping out in California, I had the opposite experience where, like, I had friends that, like, wouldn't fetishize it, and, like, they would ask me questions about it in, like, a chill way. Like, they genuinely wanted to, like, know. Like, my friends out here were, like, supportive. I say friends. It was 2 people. But that's better than, like, it was literally just you and me back then. Like, everyone was kind of so. But yeah, so we get that. And also, you know, she's been celibate these past 10 months. And, you know, the biggest thing for her that she says is because she wants to, like, attract people that, like, love themselves. She wants to love herself. And it's like, you know, she still feels that slut shaming that happened, even though now, like, she's back being a stripper. She's like, I put my princess heels on, stepped into my power again. Like, I fucking loved that. It's, like, poetic, bitch. Like, you should use that for something. But it still affects you because that was the start of her stripping journey. Like, and her friends reacted the way they did, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like the Xans as well, because the addiction is, like, such a real thing. Like, I had more of, like, a Molly / Coke, and I didn't know it at the time, but, like, meth, like, other substances that I ended up becoming, like, addicted to, like, later. But, like, I think that's such a thing because we talk so much about, like, the men and the trauma that, like, men give you, but women give you trauma with it as well, especially when it's, like, people you consider friends or women in your close social circles that make you feel, like, bad or dirty for doing these types of things, and you just kind of want to, like, revert into yourself and find, like, a coping mechanism and disappear. But I think it's so beautiful that she, like, you know, once you saw these other girls doing it, and, like, it's cool now, like, okay, fuck those bitches.
Right, of course they dropped the OnlyFans. Like, that is so. And she said it's like it gave me perspective. It's like, okay, but when it's trending, it's fine. But when sex work wasn't trending, you're dirty. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, and I also think it's like, because, like, again, we talk so much, like, in the culture and broader media about like, oh, like, you know, you got a bag, like you needed to do this, you needed to struggle, like all of those things. But I also really liked how she talked about like how she liked the inner baddie, like the outfits and everything like that. And especially following her and knowing her, I'm like, it just makes so much sense. Like even these like jewels I have on my face, guys, like the first people I ever saw to do jewels on their face were bitches in the strip club. Like they be setting trends. Like before Euphoria and any of that shit came out, when it was like popular, like so many trends start in the strip club and are like shamed first before becoming like mainstream. So like I just love that she like reclaimed her power, and it's still a journey. Like you know, you have to face that trauma and then go through it yourself. But like yeah.
I know, it's so true. Everyone always talks about the trauma from the men, but it's like in my experience, I was never like, I don't have trauma from other strippers, but like it's also like that happens. Like there are like fights that break out. There are like clickiness in strip clubs, just like there is in schools and fucking work environments everywhere. But it's like that's an element of it too. So, but yeah, I feel like I was super lucky. Like all of the strippers that I've like literally ever met showed me so much love, like genuinely. Yeah. And I wanted to fuck like a lot of them.
I know, same. And like, it was honestly, cause like I had just become close with you. So it was like a lesbian, like awakening, queer awakening, like through our friendship, just like learning more about it. But the strip club too, because there were so many queer women in the strip club. I just remember being like so like amazed by like women's sexuality like in the strip club.
Right. And the first time being in a locker room like full of naked women is definitely like a core memory.
Yes. And like, cause I remember always being the bitch comfortable as fuck being naked in the soccer locker room and all those things, but it being like, oh, like we're hiding, like whatever.
We hide my tit.
Yeah, bitches are walking around like whatever. It's cool, like it's normal.
Bitches are really, we're like baby wipes are out. Like it's just full like, we're just like our bodies are our fucking instrument right now. Like I don't know.
Like you're fine. But the last thing I just want to say is she said that she was like in a relationship while she was stripping, which I think is interesting because we didn't talk to, well, you did. You talked to a couple people, like the listener stories that we had and also the Reddit threads, like had a hard time dating or whatever. But this is someone who was like in a long-term relationship. So that's like an interesting dichotomy.
So it's like someone that respects her and what she does for work, and it's like that's hard for a lot of strippers to find. And like I feel like I had that too with my first girlfriend. She definitely respected what I did for work, but the thing is like women are so fucking smart. Like she saw through kind of why I was doing that. Yeah. Like she knew, you know, but she didn't want to control my life and was never going to tell me like you can't be a stripper. Right. And then the other relationship while I was in when I was stripping, he was like, you know, very overly supportive of it. Yeah. So, you know, like, but it seems like she's in like a legit like healthy.
No, she's not anymore because she said she
she's been celibate for 10
and now
months.
she's been celibate since the breakup.
Right.
So
sorry,
like that's
guys.
like
I'm a little bit drunk. That's the only reason. I knew that she had been celibate for 10 months because I was like, oh, no way. Like, that's perfect for the episode. Like, I had no idea.
It's interesting because, like, I feel like that could probably, like, I don't want to, like, project or, like, hyper-analyze compared to the last stories. But, it could be more to do. Like, it could be both. You know, like, your intimate relationship could cause you to be, like, when I went celibate, I think it had, like, traces of my stripper history, but it was so long after that it was like whatever. And she's been stripping for a while, but just became celibate like more recently. But I think like honestly, I'm here for everyone being celibate at some point in their lives. Like it is a good thing to do.
It further like, and that's why it's like trending so much online also. But I think it does get taken a little too far, but we'll get into that at the end. So this final Reddit thread that we're going to talk about, our second and final Reddit thread, is also from our stripper classic Reddit thread. Someone posted, anyone else pretty much celibate, with the emoji that's like, and then they said, for some reason or another, are any other working ladies pretty much celibate? If so, for how long and what's your reasoning behind it? I'm realizing now that aside from a few quick situations, I haven't had real actual sex for a few years now. And like this person's literally me because exactly, aside from a few quick situations, I haven't had real sex like, bro, like since Atlanta. And I did have sex with my girlfriend, but we did sexual things, but we didn't go fully there.
And you
I
were
was
long
like
distance, so it
and
was
also
when you
like
saw
I
her.
knew it was gonna be sensual, and like you know how I am with sensual sex, it's scarier. So I was
Yeah.
kind of holding back a little bit with her because I was like, I don't want to cry. I just met her. Like she's gonna think I'm fucking nuts. And so aside from just like getting fucked outside the club from Atlanta boy in that night, like
Yeah.
I'm like, and New Year's, like those are definitions of quick situations because
Yep.
what was that? So anyways, I was just like, bitch, me too. But let's get into these responses. This person just said, yes, 11 months free from recreational. Love the differentiation.
I love the term, yeah.
This person said, I was a virgin when I started stripping. Continued
Wow.
being celibate for a few months after. When men are worshiping you at the club and dropping hundreds on you just for existing, who needs to go splitsies on a Starbucks date with some NPC fuckboy from Tinder, you know? Probably would still be a virgin today, but a sugar daddy kind of fell into my lap at the club. Sold him my virginity for $10K outside of the club, obviously. And he continues paying me to date him. So I am no longer celibate, but only for business purposes.
Interesting.
Like, what, bitch? When I saw that, I was like, damn, girl, can you be on the podcast? Like,
Right.
that, not even, like, her being a virgin when she started stripping doesn't surprise me as much because I actually knew a lot of virgin strippers in California.
Really?
The younger girls, like the girls that came in that were like 20, like 19, whatever. Like, yeah, like a lot of them, it's like they don't do extras. Like they were virgins, like, and whatever. But I mean, obviously that's still rare. Like the majority like are having sex. But the part about, you know, she sold her virginity for $10K. What the fuck was I giving my virginity for free for?
I mean, it wasn't your virginity, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I should have waited. Like, because that's so desirable to those fuckers. They were probably like,
Well, you could still lie.
I know, but
We
yeah.
could have lied. We could have
But
made that
that's
our
just
thing.
such an interesting perspective. And I think
Yeah.
that outside of us, people would be floored, shocked to their
Yeah.
core to think a stripper was a virgin.
Yeah.
They would be, that is not a thing in civilian people's minds, dude.
I mean, I wouldn't really think of that because I'd be like, I just feel like your ability to say no would be better, though.
yeah.
You know what
If you're
I'm
a virgin,
saying?
because you want to like, yeah, because it's like your virginity, which is also
Yeah.
so weird anyways.
But that's like, again, like somewhat similar to like your experience where it's like you, like a lot of your sexual experiences were with men in the context of like transactional, and her, it's like similar. Like literally she has not had recreational sex
right.
outside of the strip club.
I know. I want to get her on the pod. I'm not
Right.
kidding.
I'm
This
like,
is
can you hit us
crazy,
up,
dude.
please?
But yeah, okay. Someone else said, I find that I don't need sex and can get myself off just fine. Didn't have it many years and nothing happened but decreased drama. For several years now, the only way I will sleep with a man is if there is financial benefit. And some of them are actually good in bed, but that's definitely a small percentage of them. Eye emoji. Women are exempt from this rule. A gorgeous lady can get it any day of the week. So obviously she's like,
Yeah.
can buy. But here's another one that says, I'm not sleeping with a man unless it's for money.
Yeah.
And like, I genuinely like felt so alone, like feeling that back in the day. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy to me. But I also agree with like what you were saying about how this mindset isn't exactly like the healthiest, depending. Like maybe she leans more lesbian. You
That's
never
what I
know.
was about to say. I was like, maybe it's like a leaning situation where like, because she said, I mean, not many of them are like that good, or like it seems like, you know, if
Like,
you're
she's
not as
not-
attracted to them, then it makes sense for it to be transactional and not as much, but there's also more trauma around it, like whatever.
Right.
But yeah.
But still, interesting take.
This next person said, I'm not sure. I claim celibacy, but as with most of you, it is rare I meet someone I would be willing to have that exchange of energy with. It is absolutely not worth having sex just to have it anymore. My sex drive is also a lot lower since I started dancing. I think this is just an oversaturation of sexuality. The saturation. I'm like, yes, bitches. This is
I didn't
such a
even
good
fucking
fucking
peep
word.
that shit. That's crazy. But yeah, lower, and that's exactly what like Lucy said at the beginning. It's like when you have all this sex going around you, it's like it does cause your sex drive to sometimes be lower in your recreational life because you're doing sexual things all the time. And like it's just insane. I can't directly relate to that though, because I do feel like my sex drive was big in my recreational life when I was stripping, especially the second time. Like he would fuck me every single night after I would come home, shower, boom. Leg massager, out and charged, bitch.
See, that would be so nice.
I know.
Okay.
All right, this next person said, while I was in the industry, it was hard to get aroused. I wasn't celibate, but there was a time when I would only have sex if I felt pressure from my partner. I know, not healthy. It was hard respecting the no signals I felt in my body when I had a partner that made her whole self-esteem revolve around how much sex we were having. She was a very hypersexual person, whereas I really only craved sex during new relationship energy or when I was taking a break from the industry. We even tried an open relationship style, but sex was never satisfying to her unless she was getting it from me. Damn. I'm in a healthier relationship now, oddly enough, with an old regular. You'd think a strip club regular would be the most abusive, controlling, coercive relationship I could end up in, but he's the most respectful person I've ever dated. He knows my trauma. He doesn't pressure me. He and I have a similarly matched sex drive. He doesn't need sex and doesn't feel neglected when I'm in the throes of being touched out and sex repulsed. He's so patient and caring. I made a good decision giving him a chance. And when my trauma episodes have a break, we have the most amazing kinky sex.
Oh my
God.
That's amazing. And also, guys, like, full disclosure, we like cut it out when we edited, but NRE, like, new relationship, wait, what was it? New relationship energy. Can we just, I've never heard that before, but that makes so much fucking sense, because I do feel like I am so much more like sexually invested, empowered, whatever, when I'm meeting someone for the first time, like out or whatever, versus when we get into like a relationship, like a comfortability thing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, I know. I feel like that's so real for you, especially though.
Yeah, because like the strip club also, it's just that like constant like, ooh, new, like, you know, but that's incredible that like she found this relationship with this person like through the strip club, because you hear those and I feel like they're often like taboo because there's like age gaps or you met them at the club or like whatever, but like if that works for you, like,
yeah. And it's like coming from the relationship she was in originally sounded horrible, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's so awesome. And exactly, she's like, and a lot of these sex workers online are saying like, you would think the guys at the club would have all my trauma. Like, you would think this regular would be controlling more than my previous partner that had never, you know? So it's like, that's a common theme that we should all be taking away. I think that I might be the outlier, and or maybe not. I mean, it's like we're only reading. There's so many sex workers, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a common trend. Like, the people, a lot of the, you know, you get what I'm saying.
No. Like, keep going.
Okay.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, a big trend is like, you know, she's saying like, you would think this strip club regular would be so controlling, but actually my relationship with not a strip club regular was very like unhealthy and abusive. And then it's like a lot of people are saying my biggest trauma is from guys I've dated recreationally rather than the guys at the strip club. Like, I'm just saying that's a trend throughout a lot of this, and something that I don't think a lot of people would think, or even I would think, honestly.
I feel like for you, like, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I hate like reading you completely because I don't want to like overstep.
I love when you read this.
I know you do.
It's like free fucking tarot card reading,
right?
Honestly.
Like, let me
from
just,
a
like,
witch psychic. Like, let's get it.
But I do think like it's one, like, just like the number of experiences you've had with men versus women. So like it's gonna be like a little like
it's a different perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective. But I do also think part that plays into it is the stigma And if you tell men about like being a sex worker, stripper, OnlyFans, and like the hit that takes on their masculinity when you're outside of the strip club, if you meet them in the regular day world, because some men will pretend to be okay with it and then it'll come up as an issue like later on. And we had kind of talked about that in the Nonchalant Lover Boy episode where we had, like, I forget his name, Nick Naysayer, I think, where he was dating a porn star. He was, like, okay with it. He tried to be okay with it, but, like, he wasn't in the end. And I think, like, more so in, like, recent times it's become more normalized. Like, I've had men in my life that I've been, like, close friends with, like, family members even, like, my age, though, like, cousins and stuff like that, like, have told me like they've like messed with strippers and like it was a non-issue. But I will say that the men that I've talked to that have messed with strippers, and when they've opened up to me about it, they will say that like a lot of them come with a lot of trauma, which I think is very true. So I think like if it's not the stigma, then it's like the trauma that comes with it. You know, like there's more set up against you with men in the real world versus the men that you meet in the strip club are already aware of what you do. And like they see you for that first and then like can open it up to more. So like, you know.
And everyone's different. Like some people are so upfront about it. Like I'm a stripper. And then you have people like me that like truly like was living a double life.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so hard. Exactly. Like there's so many like barriers in front of you. And that's why like I really think we should do an episode about stripping and dating because I think it's like a very hard journey that a lot of people just are like, well, that's what they get. They're strippers. But like, no, we need to be respected.
Right.
Big, strong emphasis on people assuming strippers are nasty sexual freaks. Like I said, I met a lot of strippers that are literally virgins, would never even think twice about doing a sexual act in the strip club. Like they danced, they did lap dances, they went home. Like everyone has a different journey because you have free will in the strip club.
Yeah.
Like you do, which is, I mean, depending on the club, everything. But for the most part, it's like you make the rules. You're a fucking independent contractor.
And there are safeguards there. Like there are like security, like you
cameras.
Put them out, like
I'd always be like, there's cameras right there.
Right. Like there's cameras,
They're
like
watching.
the bartender, like the security guard, like you have like people around to make you more safe. And like the world is scary. Like we're told all the time, like men are scary, all of these things. So like it's, you know, in the strip club, like it's not like every woman, I don't know, like that stereotype is just still so crazy.
I know.
I did not think though about virgins in the strip club. That to me is a little eye-opening.
I think also because the club we worked at, we were on the younger end. Like
we were the youngest.
We were the youngest. Where I worked was like I was very much in the middle. Like there were a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds like running around with their hot little bods, bro. I was like, damn, that they look like baby porn.
And I think we made more money and like did better because like me especially, not a dancer. And I would wear my hair in, like, pigtails and stuff, and, like, we looked younger.
We would do it up like we were fucking 15.
Yeah, and I think it was a fetish, definitely,
it worked.
for people.
Oh, yeah, it worked.
Imagine if we said we were virgins. We should have fucking done that. That would have been smart.
I'm like, would they have believed us? We're both like, yeah, we're best friend virgins.
I mean, bitches really are virgins. Like, we could have pulled that off. We lied about other things. Like,
yeah, literally about everything else. I had a whole story about where I went to college, what I studied, like a whole fucking thing, bitch. But yeah, I really enjoyed, honestly, like listening to all these experiences from sex workers. I think it's like so important. And I think for a long time I was even kind of scared to hear other people's experiences in a sense. Like I just wasn't ready. But it's really like healing, and I feel like community from it. And I hope you guys like learned a lot from that. Like I definitely did too. But the last thing we're going to do in this episode is I do want to talk a little bit about how celibacy is trending OD online, YouTube, TikTok, etc. So there was this article we read, this woman named Shirley Yanez, who gave up literally sex completely in 2005. And she just had something to say about this next generation, celibacy, etc. Yanez believes that celibacy among young people is on the rise, especially among girls. I think women feel more empowered than ever to reject the sexual roles they've felt pushed into the past. Self-esteem is improving and they seem to feel more able to use their voice. They're fighting back at school, in the workplace, and also on the dating scene. So I don't know if I agree like 100% with all of that, but I do definitely think that like it makes sense why celibacy is trending, because it very much aligns with like women stepping into their power and like not taking less than what they deserve. And unfortunately, like that can result in celibacy a lot of the time because men are trash.
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's the boomerang effect too from like the 2000s, like whatever, like the hypersexuality stuff of being like, I can fuck with no feelings, and then like, you know, you see your sisters do that or like whatever, and then it goes backwards. But I also have seen a lot about this with like Gen Z and early Gen Alpha, because how the fuck old is Gen Alpha? But like Puritans is a coined term, which we should maybe do an episode about in the future. I haven't done that much research into it, but I've seen that as a thing.
Yeah. But also, so I saw this Instagram reel and I just really liked it. And it's basically about this, it's some sort of phenomenon that happens when you're celibate for too long within women. So let's watch it together.
Nobody talks about what happens to mature women when they've been celibate for too long, okay?
Okay, no, but can we talk about this one, y'all? As I talk about this phenomenon in the book that I'm writing about my own celibacy journey that's coming soon, I even talk about it in the celibacy/abstaining journal that I created for those who are currently on that journey. But there comes a point in your journey where despite your physical desire for intimacy, you mentally and emotionally cannot fathom you actually doing it. Meaning the risk in giving someone access to your body like that after a while begins to outweigh any pros that that kind of intimacy has to offer. Or the only way you can fathom giving someone access to your body like that is somebody you're committed to seriously. Because abstaining is its own little safety bubble. On this journey, worrying about catching STIs, catching the pregnant, and catching feelings is really at an all-time low, and it feels so good and so safe to be in that kind of space. As much as you may want to step outside that bubble and get your freak on, it's cold outside that bubble and the warmth of the inside of it keeps you in.
You think I can relate, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I do relate, but I'm also like, I'm like upset about it. Like she talks about it like I'm so happy that I'm in this bubble and like, or not in this bubble, but like I feel good here. Like I don't have to worry about all
from STIs.
protected.
Yeah.
Yes. Like as much as I'm happy being single and not like dating romantically, like I'm not like happy about being celibate per se. And it really wasn't a choice. Like a lot of the strippers talked about, like it kind of snuck up on me. And then I was like, oh shit, it's been like a year and a half and I haven't fucked anyone for real. And I'm like, I love to fuck. So it was just like,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's just interesting. And I love that creator also. And like she's literally writing a
shout
whole
out to
book
her
about
book.
this. So I thought it was interesting. And I think a lot of women that are celibate right now do like it. And it is by choice. Like the trending of celibacy is not like it sneaking up on you because of trauma. It's like a choice in healing. And so I think it's just like, yeah, I think you can get stuck in that bubble for too long. And personally, I don't want to be in it.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in the bubble.
I don't feel like I was in that bubble. Like I felt like it was a comfort place for me where it's like I feel like sometimes I would like give in to having sex when I didn't always want to because I was drunk or because I was horny in the moment, but then later feel bad about it.
That was our MO for a while.
Yeah, so that was like it was like a good safety net of, oh, I'm celibate, like this is my excuse, just like, oh, I'm sober, like I'm not having a drink, which I've tried multiple times, but it never works for me. But anyway, but I never, like for me, pregnancy, even though I've been pregnant and had abortions, and STIs, even though I've had an STI that was easily treated, like those have never been reasons that I'm concerned about at all. Like I don't even think about them consistently when I am fucking.
I agree.
Like,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like to me, those are solvable problems, and they're also like proactive measures that I'm gonna take. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not a concern. It's
and
just
like 99% preventable.
Yeah, it's like a side effect that comes with sex. For me, it's more that emotional connection stuff that she talked about, or like from like feeling bad about it the next day, like that type of stuff. But like, I don't know, like I get it, because I do feel like when you're out of like, when I was celibate, I was only going out. Like the only time that I was having sex was when I was like going out and partying. And like I had like a one little like, we would like hook up after we were like saw each other out or whatever. Like we would link. But like I wasn't going on dates and fucking people off dates, like, because I was afraid of the intimacy aspect. So I feel like for me, it was more of like a bubble of like fear of intimacy.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel
That's
like
how it is
I
for
see
me.
that with
Exactly.
you. Like, I feel like it's more bigger than the problem of celibacy is the problem of like being like social and being comfortable like dating again or going out and like those types of things. Not like dating,
and like, why
in the
am
sense
I
of
terrified? Like, I say it's COVID, but bitch, it's got like COVID's bit, like it's over. Like, we're not.
But I do think like I love my fucking therapist for this because like I was very much like did not want to go on dates with people, didn't want to like none of that shit, like very like terrified. But she pushed me to. And I do think like you got to be weary of that bubble because with strippers it's a little bit like more complex because again the oversaturation, you're exposed to it so much. But like I do think like you need a time for healing, you need a time for a break. But if you don't want to be celibate forever, you need to expose yourself to it at like in some senses.
And the longer I put it off, it's just gonna get fucking scarier.
Yeah.
But I also like I'm building it up like I'm so scared, but I know for a fucking fact if I was out and doing it in practice, like I wouldn't be scared. I'd be like, oh, like yeah. Because I am a sexual person and I love that about myself. So like I know I'm gonna get it back. It's very much the going outside part that I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. And this last article we read about this was kind of like not judging it, but like a little bit. So a little some controversy.
Ooh.
This article was from the New York Post, and it said, this new celibacy trend is a form of sex negativity that some people claim has changed their lives. Take a scroll on TikTok, and you will be inundated with people ranting on how they've discovered clearer mental clarity and have enough energy to fuel a speedboat. This celibacy trend is spruiking the idea that sex gets in the way of a meaningful life. It clouds our judgment and stops us from making clear and well thought out decisions. But rather than burying your head but rather than burying your head in the sand, avoiding all feelings and simply going, right, well, I'll just never have sex again, may I suggest therapy instead? So let's scrap this ridiculous idea of abstinence and aim to find a healthy balance. Perhaps it's not sex you need to avoid, just sex with the wrong people. Let's put more focus into that. Okay, tell us how you really feel, you know?
I kind of agree with this.
Me too!
Okay, because I'm like, I do think as a hypersexual person that didn't have as much sexual agency, early childhood sexual experiences, being a stripper, whatever, like, I needed to be celibate to reclaim my own agency over my sex. I feel like that time period was necessary. But yes. I will say also, like, you know, I'm with my man, like, who's not my man. I don't really know what the fuck we are. But he was practicing Ramadan and he was not having sex throughout Ramadan. And, like, the whole thing with that is, like, you know, spiritual clarity, mental clarity. And I had an ex before a while ago who was a track athlete. And he, like, wanted to, like, preserve his sperm for, like, testosterone, like, you know, like, apparently it makes you more manly when you don't come all the time. Like, that's a big thing in, like, men culture. And for women as well, like, oh, we get jaded by, like, not jaded, but, like, our mind is less clear with oxytocin, like, all of those things. So I think it is this big thing of, like, oh, like, sex is a poison, like alcohol is, like, sex can, like, ruin your mind, and, like, don't expose yourself to it, otherwise you're gonna, like, lose fucking control. And I'm like,
and then you have tantric sex being like, hi, we exist.
Like, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, and again, I thank God for therapy for this, because I really do. I was on TikTok a lot at the time that I became celibate. And I was, like, thinking of all these things. I'd never tried it before. I think it was important. I think it was helpful to my healing. But you cannot live in that bubble forever because it's false. Like, humans have fucking sex. We're animals. We're ingrained to do that. Like, we need to be sexual.
We love to say we're animals.
Like, we're, like, you know, I don't know.
I know. That's why I included it, because I was like, okay, finally. And, like, I get it. But, yes, it's like a lot of it is about that grogginess mentally, and, like, you'll have more energy to go off in your career and, like, blah, blah, blah. But exactly what she's saying, it's like, we just need balance, and we need positive sexual experiences. Obviously, you can't always control that. but you do have control over who you sleep with if it's not,
Yeah.
you know, a non-consensual situation. So it's like, you do kind of have control over it. And I think like, again, like I've been celibate. It's not really by choice. And I think being celibate because of strip club trauma, sex worker trauma in general is way different than being like, I want to clear my mind. And again, it's not like inherently a bad thing, but I think when things get on TikTok and everything's so trending and like everyone's like, women empowerment, we're celibate, blah, 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 like it can get dangerous. And I don't think it's like I'm just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not inherently bad. Being celibate is fine for whatever reason you want to be. But when it gets on the internet and the fire fuels and then everyone's celibate, it's like, well, we can't all be. Like, we need to, I don't know.
Yeah, because there's also, like, the whole movement of, like, femcels and women choosing not to have sex with men because of, like, patriarchal shit. They don't believe in, like, how men are, like, dating, like, whatever. And I just, like, again, I want to go back to, like, Lucy's story where she talked about, like, the balance between, like, recreational and work and kind of, like, giving yourself this own pleasure, because I feel like so much, it's so sad. And I don't know, like, sometimes I'm like, is the connection, is it coming from, like, the patriarchal society that we live in? Is it coming from American capitalism? Is it coming because, like, stripping and sex work has been more normalized in the media? But, like, so much of relationships and sex and love is so transactional and so commodified. Like, so fucking transactional and commodified that it's like, you know, people who aren't strippers and sex workers, where it would make more sense for this to be a thing, it's happening to them as well. And it's just so, like, sad to me because, like, these are beautiful things that are, like, intrinsic into, like, the human experience and, like, our capability of feeling and developing connections. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Once again, you really nailed it. And it's like, to be honest with you guys, it's a huge reason we even wanted to do a sex and relationships podcast.
Yes.
Is because of how commodified it is and how horrible it is generationally. I mean, it's like you hear, like, a lot of people's parents have been together forever. I don't think our generation's kids are going to hear that as much. You're going to hear that mommy was in a situationship.
Our generationship, I'm screaming because I was finishing your sentence, but our generation even, like, had less parents together, like, more divorces. Like, that was a big thing when we were growing up. I mean, my parents are together, but, you know, like, in our next generation, it's going to be, like, open polyamory. Like, there's going to be even more so, which doesn't mean that love doesn't exist and intimacy. In fact,
it's just
like,
a different society that we're in.
Yeah.
No one's writing love letters anymore, and I think that's the basis of all the problems.
It's capitalism. I swear it's fucking capitalism.
Yeah.
I
know. But yeah, that about does it for this episode. So we're definitely going to get into our wrap-up segment, talking about what we're wet, dry, and still maybe confused about the topic. I will start. I'm definitely just wet about reading all of the sex workers' experiences. It's like I'll say it once, I'll say it again. It's been really healing for both of us, and, you know, for me, like, it really has been. So, and I'm just, like, so proud of sex workers. Like, I think it's really hard to be one in like your public life and everything. And so, and I really do think, like, with OnlyFans, like, there's an uprise, like, there was an increase because that was something so accessible. People saw it, like, popping the fuck off. They want to make money, like, blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, and it's like, but let's also remember, like, all the sex workers that paved the way before there was a trendy OnlyFans or anything like that. So, but yeah, so I'm wet about that. It's a very wet, positive episode. I feel like, you know, I wanted it to be like that. So I'm glad that it was.
Yeah, I'm definitely wet about the same. Like, it really does feel like a group therapy session in a way.
I know. I wish they were all here with us right now.
Right, same. And I hope that, like, strippers listening, like, leave comments, or, like, former strippers, sex workers, like, whatever, like, share your stories. Like, we'd love to hear them because we're going to touch on it more, like, in the future. But yeah, because I feel you when you said earlier, like, it's sometimes scary, like, you didn't want to connect with other strippers at a time because you're still working through your own experience. And it's like all those, like, group therapy with, like, you know, domestic abuse survivors, like alcoholics, whatever, can seem so corny. But the more you hear other people's experiences, you kind of just connect with them and you're like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Like other people experience that as well. So like, I'm really wet about that. And also like just going back to Lucy, like I'm really wet about how she talks about the balance between like recreational sex and a lot of them throughout the Reddit thread, like recreational.
Yeah, she was the whole episode.
Transactional. Yeah, like
she set the tone.
Kiss, like beautiful because I think it was also like my age at the time, but like I was not in that mindset. And I feel like if I had been, and if this is talked about more, and if strippers and sex workers have like, you know, communities where they can discuss this, like that will be more prioritized, and just women in general with our own sexuality. So like definitely what about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to dry for me, like I feel like I still do get like triggered, like talking to people that are actively strippers, like not talking to like Lucy and Tay like in her DMs, but like if I meet someone out in real life and like they're a stripper and like they seem like a happy person, like a part of me gets jealous because I wish that I could still be doing it. And I know I could still be doing it, but like deep down it's like that voice is telling me like you had your time, like you're done. But so I'm definitely dry about that. Like that's still on my healing journey before. And it's obviously I respect them. Like I'm genuinely just jealous. Like that's the problem. Like the jealousy really takes over. So I'm dry about that. I'm dry about all the stripper fucking stereotypes that I feel like, you know, and wet that we kind of conquered them a lot in this episode. Like with the virgins, like not all strippers are like crazy kink masters. You know what I mean? Like we come from all different walks of life, just like everything. Everyone's different personality-wise. Some bitches are quiet. Some bitches are loud. Like, it's not. So I feel like, and that's something we want to just continue to talk about on this podcast as well. So,
yeah. I totally feel you about being dry about the triggering aspects of it, because I feel like it's this weird thing about like being a woman in general where it's like you never feel like good enough at anything, and like it like you always constantly have to be stronger but softer, but like everything else, and like
and taking account into everyone's
fucking, like all of it, and be doing it perfectly. And I think because like stripping and sex work has only become like more mainstream like recently, like we've had a very limited like perspective of it, which is it is nice for strippers coming up, but like at the time, like I do still feel triggered by certain things, or like bad about myself for not like thinking through my own sexuality and like all of that. Like, so, you know, I feel the triggered stuff. Parts of it where it's like there is sexual trauma and like psychological trauma that comes with stripping, and it's hard to talk about, or it's just talked about. Like it's just talked about in the context of like I had to strip to struggle to make my money to get out of the trenches to do this or do that, and that's the only reason people can see people stripping. And then it's like trying to revert that and reclaim it as this like powerful thing. Like we're so beyond any sort of emotions. But that in between space is I think where like most of us live. And I'm dry about like trying to have those conversations and navigate that space. And just dry about the bubble of celibacy, because I do think like it is a real thing. And I do also think like a lot of these women do have like psychological and sexual trauma that like probably like needs to be worked through, and that's like a process, you know? So I think that's something to take into account more than just like the average woman that decides to be celibate.
Yeah, no, I'm dry about the celibacy bubble for sure, for so many reasons. I feel like confused, like I'm definitely just confused about like my own personal like celibacy journey. Like it still doesn't really fully make sense to me. Like as to like I don't know, and like maybe what I should do about it. Like I don't know if I should do anything about it, if I should just like continue. Like I feel like it will be healing for me to like have new sexual experiences, so like that's a part of it. But it's like, should I be doing something? Should I go to therapy specifically for sexual trauma? Like, you know, I'm just like, but I'm also like, you know, I feel like I'm good, but I'm also like scared to go outside and fucking meet people. Like, and I know it has correlations to my depression and other things too. It's not entirely sex worker related. But, and I also just think my ex-boyfriend did a fucking number on me.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say, I think it's both, because I think the connection to intimacy and sex, as former sex workers and strippers, we have a hard time connecting sometimes because we compartmentalize, but they are so interconnected. So yeah, that makes it's confusing as fuck. I don't know if we'll ever get there throughout our fucking lifetime, but definitely. Yeah, I think I'm confused also about like dating as a stripper, and I know that's like a topic we want to cover like maybe in a future episode, because I think it's like super complicated and just like working through like sex recreationally outside of like being a stripper. Yeah, I guess I'm confused about like, again, like the lines between like what part of it is healing and what part of it is trauma that needs to be like worked through.
Exactly, bitch. Right.
Like that is just so much. And like your dating life, like are men outside of the strip club, like how so many women say they've been hurt so much more outside of the strip club versus in the strip club, like that's still confusing. You know, every woman has different experiences. So like all of it is really fucking confusing. But each of us, like, even though we can share common experiences and learn from each other, which is so important, I think like taking time to go to therapy or like, you know, focus on your healing separately.
Your own journey.
But getting out of the bubble. I don't know. I really like that.
I know. But yeah, I think that is it for this episode, guys. Please let us know if you liked it, if you learned anything, if you're not a sex worker, if you related, if you are a sex worker or previous sex worker. But yeah, please, guys, the like and comment, please subscribe or follow wherever you are. It would literally mean so much to us. I sound like a broken record, but it genuinely would. Like, we pay attention, we watch, we know. So yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. As I said in the beginning, we do post polls and give an opportunity to submit a story, question, thought for every single episode. So follow us on Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. We're also on TikTok. And yeah, we're on all podcast platforms, YouTube, everything. We would love to have you in our community of confused pussies.
Yes, and philosophical sluts. Also, like we said, we did our very first spotlight for creators in this episode. So if you guys are a creator, if you create any sort of art, if you have a business, if you're an artist, any of those things, and you want us to promote us, shoot us a DM, shoot us an email, any of those things, and we would love to spotlight you. Lastly, we do have listener support. It's the only way that we make money through this podcast, through these video essays, whatever. It is at the bottom of the link in every single episode. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. It really helps us pay for our equipment, trips to see each other, and produce better content, because if you guys don't know, we are bi-coastal. Woo! So yes, if you feel so inclined, please do that. And we love you so much. We will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
But I do also want to say, like, these are kind of negative examples of like clinginess and what it actually is and why it's bad. But there is this whole trending thing kind of on TikTok and Twitter and everything, where people are like, no, I want my partner clingy. Like, I want to be by their side 24/7. Like, I need to go through their phone, and kind of like normalizing this like codependent behavior. So it gets weird, because it's like, this is actually kind of a toxic relationship, and it's encroaching on your partner's boundaries, personal space, identity, like all of that. But people literally want these types of relationships.
Because toxicity is fucking romanticized OD, bro.
Yeah.
Like...